I have, I can say now, a good friend. It's called Mark Levinson. Mm-hmm. He's a genius in audio, and he has the same principle. He's not really an audio designer, but he knows what he wants. So he's gathering people around him to get that achievement, that he can get what he's looking for. So, and you see often that if you're good in your work, you know your good things and the things you are not so good in, and then you're looking for the people who can help you to achieve the things you want to happen. Yeah. But I can also imagine that it's difficult, that you have a lot of knowledge. So working with people who has also a lot of knowledge.
Sure.
How is that process going? Is that
you win some and you lose some.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the truth of it. No, I don't find it difficult, but I'm not that kind of person that I'm always sort of one of those people that sort of sits back and thinks, well, maybe they're right, and maybe I'm wrong, unless it's a massive gut feeling. Of course that happens, where I say, no, that's absolutely not going to happen. We definitely do not need a piano there. I want the piano there in this piece, or I want you to play this volume or in this way. It just feels good to me. But what we're actually talking about is really a matter of a taste, a matter of emotion, a matter of knowledge, a matter of your gut instinct as to what is right and what isn't. And as there is no definitive, 2 + 2 is 4. That's clear.
The truth. Yeah.
That's the truth. It's science. There it is. You cannot put that onto music, which is why there are so many, just in this shop alone, so many incredible variants on one thing and just playing a bloody record. How can it be that there are so many different versions? And what is the best? Well, there isn't a best.
No, but
There
I can
just
imagine
isn't.
if you're playing together, and you don't play the piano, for instance, and someone is playing the piano and he thinks he's very good at it, and then you are telling him, well, maybe you should doing like that, and then he says, yeah. So for me, I can see it's difficult because you are both professionals. Yeah. You see also that with pop bands and whatever, that it's difficult to get the band together because you have all egos, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you?
Most pop bands will stop working together because of this reason. Yeah. It's actually artistic clashes, and it does happen. Of course it happens. And then you end up, it has happened to me, of course, and then we just don't work together. It's just as simple as that. And I'm very lucky that I've never had a fight that has resulted in me, a massive loss. But I'm also the kind of character that goes, okay, whoa, that's not going to work, and I'll just move on to the next. Because, of course, there are so many amazing people around, and some want to work with me and some don't, and some I want to work with and some don't. That's part of being in the music business.
But is it also not, sorry to interrupt you, but is it also not, how do you call that? Because I can imagine if you have some fights, it can bring you further. Of course. And if you have something, okay, I don't agree with you, so let's go find someone else, that you will always stay on the same level. Do you?
Yes, friction creates fire, and absolutely, and great musicians, the ones that I've encountered, the really great ones, enjoy that enormously, that friction, because it's not personal, it's professional. Yeah. And amazing thing, and we all know of great musicians that really hate each other and cannot stand each other. Great songwriters that never spoke. There are so many examples of this. Bands that can't stand each other. The Stones for years wouldn't speak to each other, and yet they create magic on stage. Friction creates fire. So I've never had a situation where I have had to encounter that more than once, because I'm able to move around and just, okay, that's not for me, that's fine. But I know many musicians that deal with that on a day-to-day basis. One of the greatest string quartets that ever existed was called the Amadeus Quartet. They were from Germany, and they never spoke. They couldn't travel together. They couldn't be in the same car in the train. They couldn't sit in a four. They arrived at different times at the venue. 4 different cars, 4 different hotel rooms, 4 different hotels sometimes. They couldn't stand each other, and yet when they sat and they played a Beethoven quartet, magic happened. I couldn't exist like that.
But how practiced they over the phone or something like that? Or?
No, they rehearsed, of course.
Yeah.
But by the time they got to the point where they'd hated each other, they'd done so much practice, and it came down to artistic differences. It wasn't that they didn't like each other personally. No. So they couldn't stand the way that somebody played a phrase, but they also saw the bigger picture. Friction makes fire, and that's the music. But I'm very lucky that I've not really had that. But I've also been in most of the things that I've done, I've been in control of, so I can then just delete it from my world. And I've had it though, the members of my band don't get on. That's just people management. But in an office,
it's the same, of course.
It is, but then you've got this massive dose of artistic nonsense going in there as well, and people will fight to the death of their opinion about music. And you and I could disagree, really properly disagree. What kind of human being likes that band? What kind of human being could possibly think that that's the right way to sing My Way? Yeah. There's only one way, and that's Sinatra, but that's different from the way Paul Anka sings it. It was the guy that wrote it, and these arguments could go on and on and on, and that's the business we're in. The smart ones sit back and go, maybe there's a point there. I'm not going to change my opinion because that would make me look weak, but maybe he's got a point. And you'll find in music and in art, in culture in general, it's that creates amazing things. You're absolutely right that amazing things happen out of friction, but also out of friendship.
Oh yeah. So what's nice is dance music. Is that music or is it art?
If I'm to be honest,
you have to be.
Okay, I'll be honest.
But you play it also. I heard it, so it's
sure. Music. The history of music is that it was created for people to dance to. I mean, that's whether it be banging on animal skins, or dance to, or Strauss, of course, but even further back than that, or to sing to, or for religious purposes, or Renaissance. But if you go way, way, way back into the sort of 1500s, it was all dance music, basically, people dancing. So the modern version of dance music, as we know it, there are a few that are amazing. They call themselves DJs, producers. Are amazing. Are they stealing? Are they doing anything that's particularly original? I mean, yes, of course they are, but it's not like Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. It will very soon be forgotten. But in and amongst that, there will be some amazing things that turn the corner of music. Another James Brown turned the corner. Sting turned the corner. Simon and Garfunkel turned the corner. These sort of that people sort of thought, hang on a minute, that's new. And so I would encourage anybody to make any music, but right now, could I name one person who's really turning the corner? No. But that doesn't mean that it hasn't been, and it doesn't mean that it's not coming. And the more that you create, the better you will become. The business has changed enormously, that you're able to create noise in your bedroom extremely easily with very little knowledge, stealing, of course, things from everybody else, but that's what music is. It's just stealing from the guy before and trying to make it better. The trouble is, I think a lot of producers don't actually make it better, but that's my opinion. There are millions of people who disagree with me and are willing to spend their money to, well, they're not spending that much money to listen to it on the streaming services. I think I get very excited at the idea of somebody in their bedroom thinking, I could do this, I can create music, and that's great. And it's super easy for me to poo everybody that isn't brilliantly successful. That's not what I want to do.
They are involved in music. And
they're involved. It's part of the music business, and creating is the best thing that you can do with your life, in my opinion. create art. Why dig holes in the ground and take gas out when you can make a tune? I go make a tune instead. Of course, is the way I think, but I live in a very sort of arty-farty world of sort of make-believe and emotion, whereas practically it's of no real use.
I think, in my opinion, is that music is good because it's good for you. And there are investigations, or how do you say,
scientific
research that you can see that the mind, the body reacts quite well on analog sound, on analog music. So,
that's right.
So our health can benefit from music. So, and of course there are also a lot of physicians, not physicians, how do you call it? People who have stress, and doctors using music to get them relaxed, etc. So it's, I think, a very important part of a good, healthy life if you're enjoying music.
I absolutely agree, and it's, of course, I always find it very interesting that we need a scientific experiment and the result of that experiment to show something we already knew.
Know. Yeah.
But that's the way the world is.
But could you live without music?
No. But for me, it's like, could I live without water? Of course not. I mean, no. I couldn't possibly imagine a world without it. And throughout history, people have tried to stop music in super religious Middle Eastern countries, for instance. There's a ban on public music. Didn't work. But people are willing to risk their lives in order to play and to listen to music. I mean, literally happy to be shot dead. They would rather be dead than not have music in their life. That's just, it wasn't that they were being rebellious. It was an absolute lifeblood for them. And dictators throughout history have tried to stop or change or control culture. It's never worked. And it will continue.
In the 50s, Elvis was, for example, was not allowed because it was different.
Sure.
And the whole world.
The devil's music, all of that stuff. It doesn't work. The Beatles were worse than crack cocaine. It didn't work. No. Some things just have to come out, and it was also the same with Beethoven and Bach, and there was resistance to this. It's again and again and again. The history shows that culture. In our case, we're talking about music, but of course, certainly if we're looking at a record, we're talking about such an amazing amount of culture involved in an old style record. The artwork is incredibly important. It sets the tone. What's written on the inside, the typeface, the liner notes, massively important. We all know people that have made good careers from making liner notes. Really a skill. We've all tried to do it ourselves, and it's crap. Yeah. You get somebody who's really good at it, it makes all the difference. And then, of course, there's literally the making of it, the manufacturing, which I consider to be part of a culture. And then, of course, the music that's on it. So when we're talking about a package, and that's the shame of streaming, of course, is that there's that bit of it is gone. So it's all down to do with the music itself. But we all know records that perhaps we wouldn't have bought if it hadn't have been for such an amazing front cover.
But I think that's one of the reasons. You see the sales of vinyl is going up. And up.
Culture will always win.
Yeah,
it will always come through in the end. It always will. So to say, could I survive without music? The world cannot survive without music culture in a bigger. It's just not possible. It's out there because even on a really basic level, I take my little boy to go for a dog walk and in the forest, and he's constantly birds singing. For him, that's another form of music. He doesn't know that there's one coming out of a speaker and the other coming out of a bird. For him, it's the same. Yeah. And that's, thank God, that never really sort of leaves us. There are people who don't have an interest in it, but you'll find them singing along at a football match. Yeah. And no, I don't like my music, but you'll hear them singing at the top of their voice at a football match. You're like, well, you do. It's just It's described in a different way from the way I do it. But it is for everybody. It's absolutely the lifeblood of humanity. Whichever culture you're in, music is essential.
We were talking about records. I know you like vinyl.
Yeah.
So if you are recording, how important is for you the quality? Are you aware of the quality, or are you not? Is for you composing putting on the record?
Yeah.
Is that more important than the quality of the record?
I do. It's a great question. You know, there are so many processes that go before you get to hear it. So of course, there's the quality of my playing, which is the sort of source material, if you like. But then you have uber nerds, who are also called engineers, who take that sound through one of 500,000 different microphones. Then, of course, there comes the cable and all of that. And then you have the producer, who then changes that sound with everything. Which then goes to being mastered, and you have the guy who's mastering it, or the woman who's mastering it, and then the company who's pressing it. And so there are so many different processes before, and you get to the end product, which is the thing that you're listening to, and then it comes out of whatever amplifier, whatever speaker. Now, if something happens where magic is created and they just get it right, because there is no wrong or right, but it's universally known as, let's take Dark Side of the Moon, is the best example. Whereas on even an average audio system, it sounds amazing. On a great audio system, it sounds phenomenal. Because not only is it's not just the playing, it's all the audio weirdos along the way.
Yeah, but they were also involved in it.
100%. And anybody that talks about recordings will always talk about the engineer and the producer and the mastering and all that in the same sentence as the performance. We are very, very aware. It's not possible for me to play something and for you to directly hear it without there being all these things in between. So whenever I make a recording, I'm of course super interested as to who the engineer is and who the producer is, and sometimes it's the same person. Recordings are happening less now, for sure. It used to be that I would spend 6 days a week in the studio, and now I'll be lucky to do studio recordings. I've not done a studio recording for many, many years. I do a lot of live recordings. Basically everything we do in the Concertgebouw Orkest is recorded just in case. And that's wonderful. But again, it's completely down to the engineer and the producer and fixing.
But for example, if you want to have a record, and so it's recorded, will you stay in the process involved?
No.
Why not?
No, because it's not my place. They're not involved in the process of me preparing for my role, and you have to just give over the product. When I've made a couple of solo records, and really my philosophy is I don't know really what I want, because the options are so huge. So I better involve somebody who really does know what they want, and make sure that our relationship is good.
What is your criteria? What if you?
Again, it's a handshake and a look in the face.
Yeah.
For me, it's just it's a completely human interaction.
But if you talk with, what are you searching for? What do you want they do?
Well, I want for them to be able to recreate onto a record what they've just heard, essentially. So, in my opinion, the greatest. For classical music, this is completely different for pop music, and where there are so many processes that it goes through. But for classical music, I think it's incredibly important that the listener gets to almost feel the musician in front of them. And great classical recordings do that. A pop record is going through the great. I mean, just going through a wah-wah pedal or any kind of effects pedal is
also, in my opinion, is the recording and the producer quite important.
Sure, but my area of expertise is in classical, and if I hear somebody say, you know what, I'm just going to try and get what I've just heard. If I'm standing here, you're playing there, that's what I want them to hear. Then I know I'm in good shape.
Good hands.
As long as I've got auto-tune. So
if you sing, yeah. Well, the thing is, I'm, as you know, and what you heard already, I'm not so classical schooled, but I listen to classical music. Sure. And I hear great recordings, but also that you think that can be the sound when it was played live, that makes it. Yeah. So especially when you have a big range of different interpretations, it makes it very difficult to find the right recording. So it's a search. So is that something? If you listen to a piece, what irritates you? If you listen to a recording, what's best recorded? Or can you have the essence of what the musicians?
That's what I'm after. When I sit and I can hear the breath and I can hear the movement of the string, when I can almost imagine the way that person is playing, the tap of the fingernails, the boom of the pedal on the piano, the way the amp is reacting to a Hammond organ. These are the things that for me take me into this space that only recordings can do, because there's nothing visual. It's all then sound, imagination. You close your eyes or you don't have to close your eyes, and you could be there next to that person. I know that I'm never going to be in the same room as Stevie Wonder playing songs in the key of life.
But sometimes you want to have him in your room if you play the record.
And so I play the record, and that's as close as I'm ever going to get to what I consider heaven. Yeah. And music, for me, just to sort of explain the importance of not only musicians but composers, that if, in my opinion, you've got great composers, and that can be Beethoven, or it can be Mahler, or it can be Stevie Wonder. It doesn't matter, because great music is great music, in my opinion. And they have been given this gift to be able to create a sound that connects with humans. Whereas I can talk all day long, and there will be a small proportion of people who will listen to me, but most won't. Stevie Wonder can write a song and millions will listen to him. So he's the special one, in my opinion. Yep. That puts him above me in the food chain of life. And I think is that connection between the gods, whatever you want to describe them as, the higher ground, forgive the Stevie Wonder pun, and me as a musician who's just an interpreter. And it is so he is the scriptures. So he's creating the scriptures, and it's my job as a musician to say the scriptures. It just so happens that he's able, at the moment, to be able to say his own scriptures. But when he passes, it will be my job to, and the same with Mahler. So it's my job to interpret those scriptures, score the notes, in a way that connects with other human beings. That's all that I'm doing. I'm just a conduit. I'm just a cable. But the quality of the cable matters in this case. So I put them up there. So if you're listening to a record, and it's taking you somewhere, it's always going to take you higher. Music always takes you higher, up, somewhere. And I think that certainly when I'm playing a great piece of music, that I'm as close as I can possibly get to touching the hands of God. And as a listener, you're just an inch away from me doing that. So I'm taking you with me, and we're both going higher via this incredible score, the scriptures, up to whatever is up there that's looking out for us. Yeah. is the way I view my job and the job of a composer and a listener.
What you do is, I ask what that does to you if you listen to a bad recording, and then you talk as the professional, and you don't really give an answer, because you say a lot of things, but if I take for an example, I can listen to a piece, but when it's not recorded well, let's say I hear the highs is lazy and whatever, it irritates me. But that is something you don't have, because you can hear what's meant.
No,
that's what you say.
You picked up on that very well. Yes, because we've all listened to, as a classical musician, you will grow up to listening to recordings of Bartók, a Hungarian composer who recorded Hungarian folk music and then wrote, and so we've all listened to those recordings. We've all listened to field recordings of Inuit tribes that's done on one crappy Sanyo microphone. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's just what they had.
No, but that doesn't say that it has a bad sound. For me, they are two. And that's funny, because we audiophiles do a lot of. We want to have that everything sounds perfect.
Yes.
The top end, the mids, everything.
Yes.
So we are very busy with that.
Yes.
And but it's also that you can have. Mark Levinson made recordings with 2 microphones, and that's it.
Sure.
And it sounds.
I've done many recordings like that.
They sound perfect.
Yeah.
So it doesn't say that it is a simple recording. Doesn't mean it's bad.
No.
But what I mean is that the reproduction, if you listen to it, that the glaziness of a real bad digital, so let's say MP3 formats, who makes violins very aggressive or glazy. For me, it makes listening difficult. But for you won't have a problem with that.
No, I don't actually. No, I mean, would I choose to do it all the time? No, but I also don't choose to eat the same food all the time. I mean, so I'm incredibly privileged that I'm able to have the choice. There are many. I mean, my grandmother listened to the same shitty records on the same shitty system her whole life. She didn't know any different, and she loved it. She was as passionate about those records as I am about some big symphonic whatever. It's an experience. Listening to music is not only an escape from real life. I think it is real life. Everything else is a distraction, but okay. But it puts you in a place of honesty. You're amongst your own thoughts. You can't escape that. Maybe the music is influencing you. We know for sure that if you're feeling sad, we tend to put on sad music, and if we're feeling happy, we put on happy music. It's just we have the choice. That's what we do as human beings. It's a form of therapy. And if you're going to do that, and you're privileged enough to be able to not only have the money to buy the equipment, but have the time to learn about it and what's best for you. And there are so many different factors involved. If you have the time, the headspace, the intelligence, the knowledge, then listening to a piece of music on your best audio equipment, how can it possibly get any better than that in life?
No.
I don't see how that moment could be bettered.